This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your
of journeys uncharted in alternate universes throughout wrestling history. And we've got a doozy for you tonight. Welcome to Through the Looking Glass. I am your co-host, Scott Criscuolo, and we got a fun one tonight. We did a similar project like this back in August for someone who passed away. The person we're doing it for tonight is not dead. He's very well much alive, but he is retired from the ring. So let me bring in my partner here on episode number. You know, it's funny. I love timing. A little inside baseball. The minute I say the number of the episode, my my Google sheet flips. There we go. Episode 52. Episode 52. Good evening, Thunder from Down Under, Mr. Dave Hall. How are you, sir? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Scott. Happy New Year to everyone. I'm doing well. I've been enjoying some the Christmas, New Year time off work. Unfortunately, I go back to work tomorrow. I'm not sure I'm really ready for that, but this is a good way to finish off that time of break to spend some time talking to you and talking to our listeners and enjoying the alternative world of professional wrestling that is Through the Looking Glass.
Indeed. And it is always great to have you. And it's another wonderful new year. And we had some great episodes last year. We had a great mailbag, and I feel like a couple of our mailbag topics from December could definitely translate into episodes this year. I'm looking forward to that. So, but tonight we have a very specific topic we're going to discuss. So back in August of last year, of course, last year, there were some wrestling deaths, but maybe the most devastating wrestling death occurred in late July when we lost arguably the greatest entertainer. Maybe not the greatest wrestler. I guess depends on your point of view. One of the greatest sports entertainers of all time, if not the greatest sports entertainer of all time, and that was, of course, the great Hulk Hogan. And Dave, you and I did an alternate DVD list of matches in our August episode, where we listed matches of his career, but we went kind of a different path. We didn't just do we weren't just a couple of kiss asses. We didn't just do only the good stuff. We, anything that affected wrestling for better or worse in his wrestling career. And I thought it was a great episode. And a lot of people liked it a lot, which is funny, talking about Hulk Hogan, to spin off for a minute. For those of you who have both on the podcast feed and on their YouTube channel over on the No-So, I don't know if you checked it out yet, Dave. The newest draft episode. It was myself, of course, JR, Ryan Gray, and Steve Bennett. We drafted our favorite all-time Saturday night's main event matches from the classic era. In other words, only the episodes between 1985 and 1992. And we each picked 6 matches. And if you haven't watched it yet, definitely do. And then vote, please, because everyone's voting on who had the best draft. I thought mine was pretty good. However, mine was actually, it's pretty funny. Mine was actually 5 of the 6 matches were actually Hulk Hogan, which is pretty funny.
It was actually.
Yeah. The only Hogan match I didn't pick was a match between the Dream Team and the British Bulldogs. Otherwise, the other 5 matches were all Hogan matches. But anyway, it's a great draft show. Please check it out. I won't tell you what Hogan matches I picked.
You lost points with me though, Scott. You refusing to pick Demolition versus the Brainbusters in 1989. You lost points right then and there.
I knew it. I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dave. It was between that and the Brainbusters Rockers. And as much as I wanted to pick the title change. I thought you'd be more insulted that I picked a title change where Demolition lost. I figured ignoring it would be better.
No, I will like that match is the match they lost. Like, it is actually a really good match. I reviewed it for the Chronoso Journey, and I love the Brainbuster Rocket Demolition matches. I love the Rockers Brainbusters matches, and I like the one you picked. I don't want to go too much, but obviously you mentioned the one of the ones that got picked was actually their final match in the company. That was the Brainbusters farewell match. So
right, yep.
The one that got picked. So it was I enjoyed that draft. It was really enjoyable. I've got to take the shots at not picking Demolition, but it's all good. It's all good.
No, it was a great show. Please check it out. It's on both the No-So feed and on the No-So YouTube channel. So, and I'm on. I believe if Ryan's doing them in order, I believe I'm on the next draft as well, which is actually a pretty awesome draft. So that'll be when the next one they drop, which I think is next month. I think they do it monthly. Anyway, so we did get back on track here. So Dave and I did a special episode back in August, and please check it out in our archive, where Dave and I did a special alternate DVD of the greatest Hulk Hogan matches of all time. Maybe not greatest, most important in both ways. Matches that were great for him in the business, and matches maybe that maybe were good for him, but maybe not so good for the business. Starcade 94, Brutus Beefcake. Anyway, so tonight we're going to do the same thing with someone else. The difference here is this guy is not dead. This guy is actually retired. I think you know who we're talking about. So tonight here on Through the Looking Glass, Dave Hall and I are going to do our ultimate John Cena DVD. Big John. We're going to do a Big John list tonight. So same prerequisites or same conditions as we had for Hulk Hogan. We are going to list what we consider the most important matches of John Cena's career, for better or worse. And there are definitely some or worse. There are definitely some, whether it be a match that was just a bad wrestling match or a match. And honestly, Dave, I will say this. Hogan had more ripple effect matches in a bad way, like a match that he had that hurt the company at the moment. Cena didn't have a ton of those. I have two in my mind. One is a blatantly obvious one that one of us will probably pick tonight. And there's another one that I always thought should have gone another way. Actually,
I think there'll be two. I can think of two obvious ones that had a massive impact on the company. But I can also think of two or three others where the result where it had an impact on the individual it had a negative impact on the individual, not so much the broader company, whereas a lot of Hogan's impacts were felt at a broader level.
Yes, I agree. And I have at least three off the top of my head in that aspect. But then there's a ton that are just amazing. And we're going to go up and down the spectrum. And then we're going to, on the back end of the show, we're going to talk a little bit about his last, the 2025 year for Cena, which of course ended on Saturday night's main event last month when he lost to Gunther. I even don't like that. I had no problem with the match itself, and you and I aren't going to debate that. That's not the purpose of our show tonight. What we're going to talk about is maybe alternate choices for opponents, maybe, that he could have had in 2025. Because I have a couple off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple that I would have liked to have seen.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so John Cena, of course, his WWE career officially started in, I guess it was July or was it June? No, it was July. July of 2000, or was it late June? I guess it was late June.
I've got it here. Hang on, I'm just bringing it up.
I just watched it within the last year. It's either late June or early July of 2002, at the beginning of the ruthless aggression era.
It was 25th of June. 25th
25th
of
of
June
June.
was the TV debut, where the
Yes.
on-screen debut. He'd done some dark matches and stuff before then,
Right.
but that was when he actually appeared on screen for the first time.
Yes. So from that point, from June of 2002 until December of 2025, what would that be? 22 and a half years, almost 23 years of John Cena wrestling, which of course, again, concluded about a month ago on Saturday night's main event in his loss to Gunther. I've got at least, and I have matches. There's matches that I really love that I do have on my. I'm actually going to pick match. The reference I'm going to use, Dave, is the Cena matches that I have, and I talked about this on Main Event a couple weeks ago. Actually, it was last week. We did a special Monday episode. We will have a fresh episode coming up day after tomorrow of Main Event. But there's definitely at least three where the result was, I believe, adverse to John Cena's career and the guy that he faced. So why don't you go first? What match do you have first?
In preparing for this episode, I stumbled across something that I didn't know existed, but feel that in light of what we're doing here today becomes very, very relevant. So I was searching through YouTube and just looking up, just trying to find some early was there some John Cena matches, anything John Cena-ish before his debut in 2001. And I was trying to work out what happened, what was that? And I stumbled across a Discovery Channel documentary that was done on UPW, on the training facilities at UPW. It was being recorded in 1999. Now, I don't know when it was released. I really don't know, but it was showing clips of John Cena's first day at his first day of training to become a professional wrestler.
Wow.
It was amazing. He's being interviewed on camera by this documentary crew on his first day in the ring, why he was becoming a wrestler, them sort of going through him, it was Rick Bassman's facility. So Rick Bassman was talking about, having to sign waivers and why they would have to sign waivers and, people getting hurt, showed a few clips of him training, and it actually showed footage of his first ever professional wrestling match. And I felt you've got to have that. For me, if we're going to do the whole career of John Cena, the fact that they had footage of his very first professional wrestling match, I think that to me became it's got to be on there. It's got to be on this DVD. If we're doing his whole career, how often do you have someone's first ever match as a professional wrestler on camera? I couldn't believe it. For someone, the luck that this documentary crew have fallen into, that they were doing a documentary on the UPW training facility, just on people becoming professional wrestlers. That's all it was. And they just happened to stumble upon footage of someone who would go on to become one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. I think it was just absolute amazing coincidence, amazing fluke that they lucked into. And so the first ever match for John Cena was as the prototype. And it occurred on the 5th of November, 1999. That's his debut match. And according to Cage Match, he wrestled a guy called Funky Billy Kim and the Troubled Youth. Those were his opponents in his first ever match. To me, that's our first match on the DVD, his debut, with probably throwing in a little bit of that interview footage. You would have to, you contact the people who released it and get the permissions. But I think that's just an absolute bonus to show that early footage of him training and his first match.
I think that's fantastic. I agree 100%. I think that's a great choice. If I remember correctly, I believe our first Hogan match was one he had in Memphis in, what was it, 70? It was like 77, right? Or 78, something like
I
that.
think was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, when he was being trained by Hiro Matsuda, we didn't have anything on tape. So this is as good as it. This is, in my opinion, as close as it indeed gets. Yeah, I think we have to have that because he was obviously, completely ripped. And it also, Dave, and I think it'll be very indicative of this when we continue on in his career through our match choices, that OVW class in 2001 and 2002, all the guys that were in OVW during the back end of the Attitude Era, while the big shots, the Triple H's, the Rocks, the Steves, the Takers, they were holding the fort and foisting the Attitude Era into another level. These guys were training and getting ready to carry the mantle because they all knew that kind of when the Attitude Era was over, guys were either retiring or going on to movies. So huge. That's a great match. A good match choice to get things started. We're not going to go chronologically because I've got matches in and out of my head. So we're going to bounce back and forth. So they're not going to go in order. We didn't go in order when we did the Hogan one. So just to let everybody know, we're not that OCD tonight. My first match, I'm picking a match. I did this the last week when we with Reish and with Willie on main event. I was just because we were talking. It was the first time in the new year that we did a show, so we were talking about Cena. My first match that I'm going to put on here, and we can add the first match between these two only because it's a seminal moment. I'll leave that up to you, Dave, in his career. But one of his best matches early on, when he was still red hot before the Cena heat came in, I'm going to go to May 22nd, 2005, at the Target Center in Minneapolis. It is John Cena defending the WWE Championship against JBL in an I Quit match at Judgment Day 2005.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's a great match. That was on my short list of matches that needed to be on this card because that was that was his coming out party as champion, as the top guy, basically. We've talked before, and I'll talk again, I'm sure, during this episode about Cena and Batista coming up, sort of being promoted to the top of the card together in 2005, and Cena's WrestleMania title win against JBL did feel a little underwhelming. It just didn't. There was something that didn't seem right in that match. But this match, this I Quit match, it really was what the WrestleMania match should have been. It was JBL putting Cena over in a massive way, and Cena really taking the mantle as the top guy.
The match that I was talking about, the other match was indeed the first match, between them, which of course, as Dave mentioned, April 3rd, 2005, WrestleMania 21, when John Cena won his first WWE Championship against JBL. I feel like that match should have ended in some sort of a schmaz for two reasons. Number one, I agree. I think the match was not the best. And number two, I think it took away from the main event, which of course was Batista winning the World Heavyweight Championship from Triple H, which I thought was a better feud at that moment.
I think I don't know that it took anything away. I think when you say take away, I think the Batista Triple H match and storyline overshadowed John Cena's rise to the top.
Right.
And so Cena won at Mania, but I don't think people really cared. Everyone was still waiting for Batista because Batista.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No, I agree. That's my point.
Right.
So I prefer putting on this list the match from Judgment Day, 2005, between Cena and I don't know if we should. Well, I guess we can number them. We're breaking.
Oh, I just got the numbers on there to help separate. Like when
Yeah.
I looked
Well,
at our previous work, I was trying to.
I know if we enter in between, I think it'll change the number anyway, which is
it should do it automatically. Yeah.
So okay, all right. So that's my next match. That's my first match. John Cena, JBL, the I Quit match for the WWE Championship from Judgment Day 2005.
All right.
What do you got?
All right. So look, I want to go to the top. In my mind, the top of the top. Look. Everyone's got different opinions. Everyone feels where things are at. But in my mind, the best John Cena match I ever watched was the Money in the Bank match against CM Punk in 2011. I mean, it's generally accepted as a 5-star classic. It was essentially John Cena's probably first Dave Meltzer 5-star match, and I don't know if he ever got another one officially. I know he's got lots of great matches over time, but to me that match against CM Punk was a perfect match. It was Cena recognizing both. People throw a lot of crap on Cena, and Cena's had that, and we'll talk more about this as we go on. Cena's obviously had that love-hate relationship with the crowd turning on him, the Cena sucks chants, and we'll talk more about that later. But I feel that the Money in the Bank match, Cena played his role to perfection in helping put Punk over, and them both playing into the stereotypes that had sort of been labeled to them by both the internet fans, the WWE mainstream fans, and also the backstage guys at WWE. It's like it feels like they just sort of came up with this match that incorporated the whole lot, and it is, to this day, it's my favorite Cena match of all time. Obviously, it's my favorite Punk match to date, and I think you have to have it on our DVD.
I agree 100%. I had that match on my. I'm using my my GWW top 100 list as kind of a guide for some of my early match picks. That was on there. In fact, I had that match at number 4 on my all-time top 100 greatest WWE matches of all time. I had that match at number 4. So totally agree with you 100%. Put Cena over, put Punk over, obviously, and pull the ripcord for the next couple of years of storylines for both those guys. So I agree 100%.
Yeah. And look, it's a shame that the WWE were not able to, in my mind, effectively capitalize on what Cena and Punk did in that match and the ongoing storyline. And just to do a bit of a plug, we've talked about this before to our listeners. You can, our shows are not chronological. You can go back and listen to different ones anytime you want. They just are. We actually did, one of our early episodes was a bit of a look at CM Punk, the way that CM Punk was booked after that initial Money in the Bank match in 2011. So we sort of went back and, had a look at went into a looking glass of what Punk's championship reign should have been.
Yep.
So it's one of ours, like our second episode or our first or second episode.
I believe it was our first episode. I believe our debut episode was Punk, because I think our second episode was Montreal, because we wanted to get that out of our way and never talk about that again. So,
yeah. So, ironically, it was when I think that was just as Punk had returned to AEW for the first time. That was why we looked at Punk to start with. So interesting with the full circle that we come. But all I'm saying is, if you want to hear that idea, go back, listen. You can listen to that episode. But yeah, like John Cena, CM Punk, just absolutely one of the greatest matches ever.
I agree 100%. I had that on my GWW match list at number 4. Dave, did you do on a side note, did you do a ballot for that project?
Yes, I did. I did do a ballot. I've got it somewhere.
Yeah, I always have it.
The match one. No. I didn't do. I started the match one and didn't finish it.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I didn't do a ballot for the matches.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I did the.
Gotcha. No. I was just
the
asking. I did one for because when we did the one for GWWE and then we did one for GNWA/WCW, I did one of those too. So, all right, our next match. My next match is amazing because of two things. It was the first time Cena got not first time, but one of the I guess you could say it was one of the first times, but this is when Cena was beginning the peak of his heat. Not his heel heat, because he never had that. Heat. We're going to go to June 11th, 2006, from the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. It is John Cena defending the WWE Championship against Rob Van Dam at One Night Stand. That match is amazing because of two reasons. Number one, the match is very good. Of course, RVD won the title, and of course, Hammerstein went absolutely batshit. But number two, it put over Edge. We won't obviously we'll be talking about Edge probably a few times this evening. But number three, the heel heat, the I guess you could say what they used to call X-Pac heat, that Cena got that night. And Cena, to his credit, Dave, and I always talk about this when I talk about this match, Cena never vacillated. He never wavered. He didn't let it get to him like Randy Orton would have, that he was, even though he was a babyface at that time, he was getting absolutely trashed by the fans. If you remember back, Cena was great in the Jericho feud after JBL. It was when he started feuding with Kurt Angle in the back end of 2005 that he started getting shit from the fans because everyone realized that Kurt was the better wrestler and everyone thought Cena sucked as a wrestler, and they kind of leaned on that for the next 3 years. But that's what we have here. And remember, Cena threw his shirt in the crowd threw it back, he threw it back out, he threw it back. But one of my favorite Cena moments is when he actually comes out, his theme plays, the place is absolutely burying him, and he's got his head down, his ball cap tight on his head, and him holding up the belt as he's walking out going, "Boo me all you want, motherfucker. I'm the man." And I love that.
It's very, very. Look, I agree with you. I think he played the part. He knew exactly what he needed to do that night, and he played it to perfection. You can talk about. It's interesting when you look back at Cena's career, and I think, like you said, in those early days, Cena copped a lot of flack, especially the backlash against being put over Kurt. And it actually predates it, because the backlash actually started because he was put over Christian and Jericho when everyone wanted Christian to get a bit of a push. And that's when it really started to turn. And then it amped up under Kurt Angle. And then you've got this one night stand match. And you're right. It would be so easy for Cena to have buckled under that and not known what to do. He knew exactly what to do, how to play his role. He knew he was the heel for the night, even though he was a babyface, and he played into the role. And you talk about his entrance, it's exactly like you can see then his understanding of the psychology of wrestling. And then you hear him, you see that he did the exact same thing at WrestleMania last year against Cody Rhodes.
Right.
And his entire his run as champion until he dropped the belt back to Cody, it was all a very similar light. It was that holding the title up, head down. Like it basically, what we saw at One Night Stand was a precursor to the 2025 heel character of John Cena.
Pretty much, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great match. The only thing that stops it being a 5-star classic in my mind is, unfortunately, the interference of Edge at the end. If you hadn't had that,
I agree. I don't think that was meant. I don't think they thought that was meant to be a 5-star anyway. But the Edge thing was just to kind of put Edge over to get the belt back later in the month. And then, of course, I mean, little did they realize that RVD was going to get pinched for weed, so that kind of made life easier for everybody. But yeah, no, that's fantastic. So yeah, that's my second match. What do you got next?
All right, I'm gonna throw on. We're talking about. I guess we're looking at this is the coming out. We're talking about ways that John Cena sort of came out and demonstrated what he could do and how good he could be. I guess the next match that I would like to talk about, I think, is probably when John Cena started to when the perception of Cena as an in-ring worker changed back. Like we went through, like you said, we went through this phase when Kurt Angle was, he was put over Angle, and it was the "you can't wrestle" chants, and it was the John Cena sucks, and it was that whole thing started in 05. I think it really turned again in 2007 on Raw when he wrestled Shawn Michaels in the 1 hour, around about 1 hour classic match in London.
Yes.
That to me is when everyone sort of went, oh, Cena can wrestle. Cena is good in ring. We've been a bit harsh on him. And look, the chants were still there for various reasons, but I think the audience recognized how good he really was as a result of that match. So to me, that match against Shawn Michaels in 2007 on Raw in London is sort of, that's where Cena, I think, in the eyes of the fans, was redeemed.
Yeah, I think so. I like that because I feel like the heat, the in-ring heat dissipated that year in 2007. I think most of Cena's quote in-ring heat was in 2005, late 5, and throughout all of 06. But there's a couple of matches that occurred in 2007 that I think dispelled that. I'm going to give you one in a little bit. I've got one right before that, though. Another one involving the heel heat. But I love that match with Shawn. I actually like that match better than the first one. Now, I had on my GWW list for Cena, I did have the first match, the actual match between him and Shawn at WrestleMania 23. I had that match on there. I had that ranked at number 74, and I had the match you just talked about, the London Raw, which happened about 3 weeks later, at number 55. So I like that match better. Incidentally, Dave, do you know why we talked about it. I forgot who brought it up to me. Was it on Main Event? You know why that match went an hour? I guess Randy Orton was supposed to wrestle somebody. I think it was Batista. Was supposed to wrestle somebody on that Raw, but he got busted for being late or temper tantrum, some typical early career Randy Orton nonsense, and he got booted off the show. So there was a match slot empty. So apparently Shawn went to Cena and said, if I go to Vince and you and I go about an hour, are you cool with that? And Cena went, and Cena in the back of his mind's like, wow, could I really use a match like that? So that's why that match is like 56 minutes.
Oh.
Because there was supposed to be a match. I don't remember his opponent. It was between Orton and somebody. And apparently Orton got on the shit list for some typical early career Orton, frat boy douchebag behavior. And got turfed off the show. And so they had to fill a match slot on the format, and Vince went to or Shawn apparently went to Vince and said, why don't you just give Cena and I an hour? And Vince said, all right, it's not a bad idea. And Cena probably took advantage of the opportunity to show the fans, I can wrestle. Yes, I wear Reebok pumps. I wrestle in jorts, but I'm not, I'm not some scrub. I'm not Jose Luis Rivera or something,
Yeah. Well,
So
yeah, I didn't know that. I
yeah,
honestly I probably did hear it at the time, but I didn't remember that. I
yeah,
think I think you were talking about the match a few weeks earlier at WrestleMania. I think where the difference in this came is I think a lot of people attributed the good match at Mania to it's Shawn Michaels, it's WrestleMania. He can wrestle anyone and make it look good. But I think the London match, people saw, oh, Cena is actually holding up his end here. And it was, instead of it being a one off fluke, it was accepted, oh, Cena can go.
right. Exactly. So no, I agree with putting that match on. Absolutely. Another match that is really great also shows his brawling technique and his brawling abilities, and uh, is also against an opponent that he was very comfortable with at this point, and that is John Cena taking on Edge for the WWE Championship in a TLC match at Unforgiven 2006. He was getting a ton of heat again. And on top of the fact that that show was in Toronto, so that didn't help. But another great brawl, another great match involving weapons. It was a very historic night because if you remember, that was Trish Stratus's final night. So it was a big night for Torontoites, and Cena and Edge put on a pretty amazing match together, and in front of a pretty hot Toronto crowd. So this match I like because it's another example of Cena brawling well, dealing with the heel heat like he did earlier in the year against RVD, and got the win. Should he have got the win here? Yeah, I mean, they had a schmaz the month before at SummerSlam, so you had to have, if you were going to give the belt back to Cena, of course Cena would hold it all the way till the following October when he would get hurt. It was an epic. It was like his first real epic reign as WWE champion. So I think it was a seminal match for him, seminal match for Edge, and one of the best gimmick matches of all time. What'd you think? Good pick?
Yeah, no, look, it's a good. I mean, there are so many good matches that Cena and Edge had together. You could probably pick one of a few and be happy with it. But that TLC match at Unforgiven, I think it really showed a few different sides of everyone, and I think it really, yeah, like you said, it's one of the better gimmick matches that he was involved in. So I think that's a really good pick. Like I said, you could go with probably one of a half dozen matches with Edge, because I'm not a big fan of Edge, but I will admit that Edge and Cena, just when they met in the ring, they just seem to have a chemistry that very few people have, and this match really exemplifies that.
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. I agree. So that's why I had that one on my list. What do you got? What's your next one?
All right. We've done a few praising Cena. I think we need to just have a look at some other aspects of Cena's career for a moment. And look, I think you go from how good he was. I think it's interesting. You look at how early on how good he was actually showed. And I guess one of the things I think you would need to have on here is the match or a time period you referenced earlier, which was his debut on SmackDown, sorry, with Kurt Angle. That first match on SmackDown, I think, caught everyone by surprise. how good it was for a main roster rookie to have such a good match with Kurt Angle. I think caught everyone by surprise. And Cena was, I mean, he wasn't a made man yet with that, but I think it resulted in the company realizing we've got to have him on the roster. We don't know what to do with him, but they had him on there, and then he sort of floundered for a few months until he found the gimmick that made him work. But that first match against Kurt Angle, I think is one that just, it has to be on there because it just showed it was early days, but it showed how good he was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Kurt Angle was the perfect guy to face him. And it was different because Cena was fresh-faced, and Kurt was a fantastic heel at that time, and it would be different than the feud he would have with Kurt Angle at the back end of 2005 when he was getting vilified for supposedly not being able to be in Kurt Angle's wrestling class. Like, it was different. It was different here because Cena was pretty much a nobody, and Kurt was Kurt. They had the patience for that. Obviously, it was a different situation. But you fast forward 3 years, Cena's the WWE champion, and Angle's the better wrestler. And of course, all the guys thought that Cena was a hack, and all the chicks thought he was hot. So that's where we started getting, and the kids liked him. So that's where the divide started to come in of John Cena fans. So, but here, yeah, it's definitely a huge match. Obviously, debut TV match for a guy who was going to become, an icon in the history of the company. And what's funny is, Dave, is Randy Orton debuted earlier than this. He just happened to be a guy. And then he ended up getting hurt, and his injury actually got him over because then he became a part of course, Evolution, and became, unbelievably awesome. So, yeah, I mean, this is a big match for him, and obviously kickstarted what would be his, what would be an amazing Hall of Fame career. My next match, and I think it is the first match that kind of turned the tide for Cena in terms of the fans thinking he was a bad wrestler. He'd still get his heat, but it wouldn't really be his like in ring, you suck in the ring heat, and that would be justified, or what's the word I'm thinking of, validated at WrestleMania against Shawn Michaels. But the match I have to put here, and it's also one of my PIC JR's favorite matches, we go back to San Antonio, Texas, the 2007 Royal Rumble, John Cena defending the WWE title against Umaga in a last man standing match. They wrestled each other. I think it was it an I Quit? It might have just been a regular match earlier in the month at New Year's Revolution for the title. And it was good. It wasn't, but here they kind of turned it up another level, another notch. And boy, did they go all out again. And Umaga was on fire. It was just a fantastic match. And I think, again, Dave, it was the first match where Cena validated the crowd, like, you know what? I am a pretty good wrestler, and I'm going to prove it to you. And I think it started here. And I think it started with the Edge match and Unforgiven, but I think it definitely picked up here with this match. And then I think it was officially validated with the two matches against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 23, and then again in the match you picked in London. But this match, I think this match with Umaga goes down clearly as one of his best matches, period, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, this was. I just remember this being a brutal bloodbath. In a and brutal in terms of hard hitting, just solid. Like it Cena just sort of stood there, and it really felt like both he and Umaga had agreed to be tight, as the saying seems to go, and maybe land a couple of legit shots on each other, because they hammered each other in that match. I remember that match being really enjoyable. Using um, the edge of the turnbuckle to, unscrewing that and using that as a weapon was unique. I think that was the other thing about this being a last man standing match. They didn't follow the usual tropes of, let's just grab a couple of chairs and whack each other with the chairs and all that. They actually were innovative in this
Yep.
match, and I think that helped Cena as well. Is people were seeing he didn't just rely um, on the norms, the shortcuts that everyone else used. He was willing to try something different and try something new, and I think that helped as well in the eyes of the fans, that this guy was thinking about what he could do to set himself apart. So yeah, that's a really good match, that Umaga match.
Yep. I agree. So, and I had that match. Where was that on my 39? So top 40 on my GWW list. So,
All
what do you
right,
do
yeah.
next?
What do I want to do next? Look, I want to go off on a slight tangent. Um, just trying to mix things up a little bit, and I think, there's a lot of good matches that are around, but I think when it comes to John Cena, a John Cena DVD covering his career, I think, has to include a very specific backstage segment. Because without this backstage segment, we wouldn't be talking about John Cena in 2020, in 2026, at the end of this massive career, because I don't think his career would have made it in the company. And that's the Halloween segment on SmackDown in 2002, where he did the Vanilla Ice parody, because that's what saved his career.
Yeah.
On that one night, in that one moment, we talked before, like he had this great debut match against Kurt Angle, and then essentially floundered for 6 months or 5 months, because they had no idea what to do with him. They'd seen that he could wrestle in the ring, but without any real character for anyone to get behind it. He was just another face. Like, they had a lot of guys that could go in the ring. And then came this Vanilla Ice rapping character, and John Cena freestyle rapping, and he was able to build a character out of that moment that took him all the way, initially as a heel, but then that took him into the hearts of the fans as the anti-hero, I guess, because it really became reminiscent of the way Stone Cold got accepted for just saying and doing what he wanted. And then it took him to the top of the card. So I think our DVD needs to include the SmackDown, to the 31st of October SmackDown backstage segment where John Cena does the Vanilla Ice rap.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, again, you're absolutely right. I think it does save his career. We could put a segment there. We didn't really do that with Hogan, because all of his all of Hogan's promos were all kind of the same.
But we did do with Hogan. We did do with Hogan the Rocky 3 match, the Rocky 3 Thunderlips match, which is essentially a segment of a pre-taped event.
Yes, that is true. But that is good. And I think the butt smack to Stephanie when episode, I think that was big too. but we won't put that as a point on the DVD. I mean, we could, I guess, but all right. Time for our first. I had a match that I was going to put, but I'm going to save it in terms of in-ring. But I'm going to put a match that may be the first adverse Cena match creatively. I think this is one of the obvious ones. We might as well just put it on there now. It's not on my GWW list. It's a horrendous. Unfortunately, it's not a great match, but it's a killer. It's a killer for Cena. It makes Cena look great, but it buried a shit ton of other people. I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
We're going to go to the Staples Center in Los Angeles for SummerSlam 2010, and it is Team WWE versus Team Nexus from SummerSlam 2010, when the Nexus could have used a win. Instead, everybody on the Team WWE team lost in some weird capacity, and then Super John came in and literally eliminated like a zillion guys in like the last 2 minutes. And he was the sole survivor. Did not make him look good at all. It was not really necessary. And the Nexus didn't quite get to the point yet where they could have eaten a loss like that. Because if you remember after this match, then there was the storyline where Wade Barrett was trying to control Cena, and he was trying to win the WWE title from Randy Orton, and Orton was kind of over as this crazy. It was like his one like window of his career where Orton was like this absolute over babyface. And Cena being, putting on the Super John cape kind of ruined it for the rest of the year, because it kind of neutered Wade Barrett and made him
kind of ruined it.
Yeah.
In one match, I think Cena ruined the careers of at least 5 of the guys in that match.
Yeah,
I know it was 7-on-7, and I'm gonna reserve the right that at least one of those guys was able to resurrect his career in a different gimmick. But of all the guys, I think Wade Barrett suffered the most. He was on a trajectory. They pushed him on the original NXT show. He was made to look good. He was given the leadership role of the new Nexus. He had all the tools. He had the size, he had the talking ability, he had the in-ring ability, he had all the traits that could make him a top level guy in the company. And this match killed him, because after this, even the ongoing matches he had with Cena never really, I don't think anyone ever expected that Wade Barrett was ever going to win. And then after that, his career just went into mid-card purgatory. And it was all because of this. And it's interesting. I was listening, I stumbled across a Jericho shoot interview from it might be 5 years old now. I don't know if you've heard it, but Jericho on this SummerSlam night, and Jericho actually said, going into the day, he and Edge, he was talking about sort of he and Edge, and he said they had been led to believe, they had been told Nexus were going over, and everything they had planned and thought about in prep for the match had been, they're putting Nexus over. And then on the day they were told that Cena had, I'm using Jericho's words here, I'm summarizing Jericho here. So, I'm not saying I'm the expert here, but Jericho basically said Cena had gone to the backstage guys and said that he thinks he should win. He should go over. And Edge and Jericho were just absolutely shocked at what happened. And in his opinion, he thinks it ruined the match. It ruined the show. And I agree with him. I think this is the first time. It's not just that he had an impact on other people's talents, but from what I've heard, it was his personal decision. There are times when decisions were made that he executed but didn't maybe have anything to do with. To me, This, from what I've heard, this was his decision. He pushed to go over here, and it had a massive impact on everyone in the match. And the only person who was able to save himself was Bray Wyatt, because he had to go and change his gimmick and change everything about himself, and he managed to stumble across something that worked, and he was able to resurrect it. Everyone else suffered.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe Skip Sheffield turning into Ryback, although he ended up screwing him. He ended up ruining himself eventually. But yeah, I agree. That's probably the most egregious. But I have a couple of other matches down the line. I want to get back to nice Cena matches, but I do have a couple of other ones where I still question the I scratch my head at the result. But we'll get to that in a minute. My next match, I thought was the best of the two between these two guys. And I actually saw the second match between these guys, and it was obviously not as good as the first one. Second one. Wait, let me say that again. The second one that I saw live was not as good as the first one. That's what I meant. We're going to go to Hard Rock Stadium. I think that's what it was called at that moment, in Miami, Florida. WrestleMania 28, John Cena and The Rock. I think you have to have this match on here. It is one of the most iconic matches of all time. The right guy went over. Believe it or not, The Rock had to go over in his hometown. Of course, they would have their... The reason he won is because they would end up having a rematch the following year at WrestleMania 29 at MetLife. I'm not putting that match on this list. I watched it live. It was fine. It was not as good as the first one. Otherwise, Cena should have won that match, but the only reason he didn't was because they were planning a year ahead to WrestleMania 29 at MetLife for Cena to win the world title or the WWE title from The Rock. So they wanted to put The Rock over here to add drama to that match. Otherwise, if this really was once in a lifetime and not once in a lifetime part one, Cena should have gone over. But
once in a lifetime, they should have kept it at once in a lifetime. I think the build to this match was so fun. It was so fun at the time. I mean, look, a lot of people would say that Rock was trying to bury Cena. I think they both agreed that let's go out there and have fun with this, and this build and the fruity pebbles and the breakfast cereals and all that. That was just it was a fun build. And looking back on it and looking back on where both these guys have gone in their careers, I think you can see they were just having a ball with it. But this was it was sort of The Rock's way to give back to the company the way it was being built. It was John Cena's opportunity to be involved in the Rock Hogan match from 2001. 2002.
right.
Where Rock and Hogan had their great massive match, and this was sort of Cena, The Rock giving back, The Rock stepping into the role of Hogan and being the classic, the classic legend, being willing to to bring Cena to his level or face the guy. Look, it was a great match. It was enjoyable. I agree with you. I think Cena should have won, and they should have left it there. I think what makes the following year even worse, it's not just that they did it on playback and for Cena to get his win back, but it was the fact that by the time the match came around, CM Punk deserved that WrestleMania spot as champion, with all the work that he'd done for 2 years. And I think there's a lot of, it's not just that this match didn't, the second time round was hampered by The Rock tearing his hamstring in the first minute of the match or whatever it is, and all the other bits and pieces to it. It's also just the fact that it was in the time period where Vince seemed to just go, this is the storyline, I'm not changing for anyone. And then you've got Punk and everything that was going on with Punk, and you're looking at going, no, you really should have changed the storyline. and you should have done something different, but they didn't. And
Right.
So yeah, but that first match, that really was it. It was a match for the ages, and it lived up to the hype. It was
It
truly
did.
great, enjoyable match.
It did. It absolutely did. I realized I picked 2 matches in a row, so I feel bad.
That's
So,
all right.
so next 2 picks are yours. What do you got?
Oh well, look, I was going to coming out of the Nexus storyline, or the Nexus match. I was going to talk about a match that Cena had with someone else involved in that match, although not on Team Nexus. And that is his match against Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam 2013.
Oh, fantastic.
That is just one of the greatest matches ever. And I think when you look at Cena's career, and there's a lot of we can talk about the politics of it, and did he, was he burying people? Did he raise people up or whatever? He put over Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam 2013 in such a massive way at a time when even the company weren't really wanting to get behind Daniel Bryan, as a result of where the storyline goes immediately after the match. But Cena made Bryan look like $1 billion. I mean, Bryan doesn't need help to look like money, but
Right.
they put on an absolute classic, and Cena selflessly allowed Bryan to beat him clean, and it gave Bryan a lot of shine. The match is, I mean, look, if it's not 5 stars, it's nearly 5 stars.
Yeah.
What happened afterwards is it really put a dampener on everything. But if you stop it at that, Daniel Bryan gets the pin and raises his arms, you've got one of the best moments ever, and it's a great match. And what Hunter and the WWE did to Bryan post match and in the subsequent storylines should never take away from what John Cena and Daniel Bryan put forward on that night.
Right. No, absolutely. That's probably one of the best SummerSlams of all time, because not only do you have that match, but you have a match that I love almost even more, and that was the match between CM Punk and Brock Lesnar. That match that night was outstanding. The cashing in by Orton, and then the beginning of the Authority and all that. Of course, that was a big. But I mean, it did lead to the, as Michael Cole affectionately called it, Miracle on Bourbon Street. I am going to pick a match from that pay-per-view later on that may not make a lot of people happy, but I mean, again, another match that proves that when John Cena needs to ratchet it up, John Cena can ratchet it up. I think by 2013, I think we were kind of tired of having to. This is when it was about this 2-year stretch between 2011 and 2013 where John Cena kind of won me over. And I liked him a ton, and he won me over as a worker. Was during this 2-year stretch, and I think this definitely cinched it for me. So, a great pick, an absolute great pick. Unfortunately, you're right. I mean, what happened after the match and from that point out had nothing to do with Cena. But
I think that's the thing that I think I want to highlight here is it was clear, we know, and it's been talked about, the company did not see Daniel Bryan as a top level guy, and it wasn't until the fans backlashed on them, going into the following year, that they were willing to change their position on what they were going to do with Daniel Bryan. But it was clear that in the company's mind, this match was just supposed to be a transition. We're going to get the belt off Cena. We're going to get the Authority involved, but we don't want Cena directly involved in losing the title to Orton. So it really, Daniel Bryan was just supposed to be a bridge. And I think Cena just went, you are screwing with this guy. He doesn't deserve it. And I think Cena put on a better match than perhaps the company were hoping they were going to see. I really just sort of feel that Cena and Bryan went out there, let's just go out there, steal the show, and put on a classic. And I can almost picture backstage going, what the hell are they doing? this is not what's supposed to be happening. Like, yes, Cena's going to lose the match, but we didn't expect what we got in terms of how good it was. So because the company just didn't see anything in Daniel Bryan. So I think it's a credit to Cena that he was willing to do that, to put Bryan over the way he did. Sort of shows his understanding of the business and the guys he worked with.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So we're going to take it from there to, I'm going to throw in my first negative. Now, I don't believe this is John Cena's fault. I don't believe it's him playing politics, but I believe it's the company seeing Cena in a certain way and not seeing other people in a certain way. And it impacted people's careers because of what the company wanted to do with John Cena. And that, to me, is the WrestleMania 31 match between Cena and Rusev.
Mm-hmm.
That is a great match. That is a great match on the night. The entrances were amazing. I mean, that Rusev entrance is one of the greatest ever. And Rusev came in with such heat and on such a roll. They had built him up so well that this match was one of the most anticipated matches of the night. You really were looking forward to it. And you were looking forward to the fact that the storyline should have been Rusev won that night. He didn't have to win the feud at the end, but he really should have won at WrestleMania. And then Cena could be trying to get the win back and eventually does it. Unfortunately, they decided to put Cena over Rusev at WrestleMania. And I think it sort of killed the rest of the series a little bit. It took away a lot of the impact of the storyline from there. And unfortunately, it took away a lot of Rusev's juice. He just, after the matches with Cena, he just seemed to go into that mid-card purgatory. The company didn't know what to do with him anymore, but they had it built up so well going into Mania that match itself is good enough to probably be on the DVD. But I think the political, the impact it had on Rusev's career moving forward sort of shows the way the company perhaps at times puts Cena in spots that he shouldn't have been. And maybe it should have been a time when Cena could have turned to the company and gone, I don't think I should win this match. I think I should lose. I don't think he lobbied to win, but I don't think he lobbied to have the result changed either.
That was one of my other I think that was one of my other picks of negative. Rusev coming in with the tank and just everything about the build to that match was so good. I think Cena could have eaten a pin here and then, beaten Rusev, maybe Extreme Rules or whatever pay-per-view was next or whatever. You have plenty of time to get that done and had Cena win. I don't think that was a big deal, but I think for WrestleMania with the tank and the music and Lana and just everything about it was so good. I think Cena eating a pin here would not have really hurt anything. And I feel like Rusev was not the same. You have to be careful when you have a up and coming heel and you're like, well, he could be put over if we hook him up with John Cena. That's not the problem. At this point, obviously, in 2015, I think John Cena could pretty much eat anything. I think Cena really could have given Rusev a great bump here, kept the feud going for another 2 or 3 months, and then Cena could beat him at SummerSlam or some other pay-per-view, and that guy could have survived that. But to do it here, and I think the same thing happens the year before, and I might as well mention that match now. I think the next match is the year before, and that is Cena against Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 30. Same thing. I know the feud was continuing, but I think under the big lights of the the big lights on the biggest show of the year, I feel like you could have had Bray Wyatt win this match and have got the whole world in his hands. They could have done it there and then had wins, down the road. Instead, you had Cena eat the pins. You had these heels eat the pins on the biggest shows where they could have used the win. So back-to-back years, Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 30 and Rusev at WrestleMania 31. Two cases where you could have had Cena eat the pin here to keep this feud going. And kept the feud going and had the heel eat it, or had Cena, win it a couple of months down the road. And they didn't. So those pair of matches, Cena and Bray at WrestleMania 30 and Cena and Rusev at WrestleMania 31, two cases where Cena definitely didn't need to win. And I think, if anything, it didn't hurt Bray. Bray rebounded. It took a little bit, but Bray rebounded. But I feel like Cena didn't. Rusev did. Rusev didn't.
No, and I think the thing about both those matches is, like you said, I don't like I said before, I don't think Cena was politicking to get the win. I think this was the company's decision of, this is where we don't see these guys quite at Cena's level. They shouldn't be beating him at WrestleMania. But I do think Cena could have turned to Vince and gone, you know what? I don't know that I agree. I think it would be better to lose here and win further down the line. Like the Bray Wyatt match, there was so much you could have done with Bray, because Bray was the psychological manipulator as well. You could have had him playing the mind games and stuff. But on top of that, he's got the rest of the Wyatt family. So Cena could lose that match because of outside interference, because of the other guys, the rest of the Wyatt family getting involved. And, you can go, oh, okay, look, he lost. He could not lose clean. He could lose the match cheaply to Bray Wyatt, and you could build to the rematch in a cage or whatever, where Cena gets it back because Bray can't get the help. I think that would have worked, and you could have lobbied for that. And again, with Rusev, he could have lobbied to, I think I should lose this one, and then we can have a massive war down the track, and we can get the win back down there. So it's interesting looking at Cena's career, that these are decent in-ring matches, that they are examples of guys being affected because of how the company wanted to present John Cena, and how they viewed other people in comparison to John Cena.
Yep.
And that's where the issue comes in Cena's legacy. Cena's legacy is, I think sometimes it's the company wanted to push John Cena down your throat, whether you wanted him or not. And that's what we got back in. That's where the problem started for him back in 2005.
Yep.
With initially Christian, but more Jericho, and then Kurt Angle. It was the Cena's going over these guys, and people didn't like that. And then they tried, you had at least they put Rob Van Dam over Cena, even if it was only going to be temporary. And then to sort of try to rehabilitate him, you go through the era where he faced the monsters. Like, let's make him Super Cena against the monsters, and maybe the fans will like him then. And the Umagas and the great Khali's and all that, all those matches, which were, half of them were abysmal.
Yep.
And then it wasn't until he started to wrestle the true technicians that he became a bit more acceptable for what he could do. But unfortunately, he could have lobbied the other way. Let me lose. So my next match is going to almost plays into this little cycle we've got here, but this is a great match. And again, an example of John Cena putting people over. And yet, unfortunately, the company took it and made it worse afterwards, and that is John Cena's first match against Kevin Owens at Elimination Chamber in 2015, when Owens debuts on the main roster and beats Cena. First match. It's a great match. It was an unbelievable moment, and it really set that's what should have happened in those other two matches. Cena should have lost the first encounter, and to me, this is where they made it work. Cena lost to Owens. It made Owens instantly. He was a made man. Now, unfortunately, the company decided to let's play back the best of three, the 3-match series again, and Owens loses the next two. But you just couldn't take away from the impact that debut match for Owens had.
Yeah. Yep. And Owens, of course, would end up becoming a big time star for the company, over the next decade, and hopefully we see him back in 2026 as he rehabs from injury. But I like that match. And there's another guy that debuts in debuts in the company in 2016 that Cena also goes head to head with and does the right thing there. Also, that they didn't do with this guy earlier in the year, but we'll get to him in a minute. But no, that's a great match. That's a great match, Dave. And again, it flips the coin on the moments where Cena utilized most. At this point, he's in the 13th year of his career. He's he's becoming the elder statesman of the company, like Orton is, and Christian, and at the time Edge, even though Edge was kind of gone. So yeah, it was they did the smart thing there with Kevin Owens. I think Vince realized, this is a guy that might be somebody that I could, that I could get over. Super John can get the job done here. So great match there, Dave, and a good example. That's the opposite of what Cena did for another guy a few months earlier against Rusev. So, let's see. Another match that I'm going to put here that I just think it's a great match, and I think it's one that gets forgotten in the annals. And that is the match, and it was talked about. We talked about it on Main Event, and that was the match between Cena and CM Punk for Cena's Rumble title win, or Rumble title shot, if you will, on the February 25th, 2013 episode of Raw. Of course, Cena won the Rumble in 2013, and Punk lost the WWE title to The Rock because we had to have once in a lifetime too, twice in a lifetime, but we wanted to give Punk a chance to get a title shot back, because he did lose the title to The Rock at the Royal Rumble. He did get his rematch against Rock at the Elimination Chamber and did not win. So now Punk wants another title shot. So he goes up against Cena for Cena's Royal Rumble win. We knew Cena was winning it, but it was just another great example of a good, long storytelling match that went a good 20-something minutes. I think it went through 2 commercial breaks on that episode of Raw. And again, there's really nothing particular. I think it's just a great match that just shows how good Cena is and how Cena and Punk really had good chemistry together, Dave. One thing about Cena that I think I mentioned it on Main Event, and I used to say this about Edge too. Cena's the kind of guy, if you really think about it, Dave, Cena doesn't have a style. You know what I mean? Edge doesn't really have a style either. He could adapt to whoever's in front of him. He could brawl. He could be technical. He could ground and pound. He could, I guess he can't high fly, but he can adapt to high flyers. He did it with Daniel Bryan. He did it with a guy that we're going to probably mention in a little bit. But that's one thing about Cena that I think by the time we get into the second decade of his career was a guy who could put over anybody because he's just good at adapting to the situation in front of him. And I think in a case like Punk, that's one of them.
Yeah, look, I think I've got to agree with you there. He was able to adapt to just about anyone. If he was in against one of the monsters, he could do the brawling style match. When he was against the technical workers, he could work with them and play off them. The guys that were the sort of those mixed hybrids, he had the ability to adapt, and I think his style really was very hard to nail down. I mean, if anything, I would put him more in like a, it's not really a wrestling style, but like a ground and pound style. It really is that. It is almost what the main event style of WWF is sort of portrayed as. What Austin and Hunter and Rock sort of did. That's a similar style to what Cena can use. They're adaptable. I guess that's why they're put in that position as the front runner and the leader for the company. Is they can adapt to everyone and they don't get lost in those situations. So yeah, and that match against Punk, that TV match against Punk, that's up there as, I mean, look, almost every match he has with Punk seems to be up there as a great match. I think there's just something about the chemistry between Cena and Punk, even more so than Cena and Edge, that I personally think Punk is Cena's greatest rival, and Cena is Punk's greatest rival. I think the two of them, just there's something about their matches and their chemistry and their ability to tell a story that work. They could adapt. One could be the heel, the other could be the face. They can switch those roles. They can both be a face. They can both be a heel. Like, they can just do it all at the same time. And I think they played so well. And that Raw match is another example of just how good they were together.
Exactly. So what do you, let's see, we're at 16 matches. We're doing pretty good. We got 16 matches so far. I
think that there's a couple of matches. There's a couple of matches or concepts of Cena that I want to capture on the D. Like we've said, these DVDs aren't just about this. This idea is not just about their best matches. It's capturing the various elements of their career. So we've talked about a couple of the negative elements of his career. We've talked about a lot of good, positive matches. We've had his debut and all that. One of the things that I think you need to capture about Cena is just how physically gifted he was, in that his body, he could just go. He kept going. He seemed to be able to recover from injuries very quickly. And I think the match that I want to put on here that highlights that trait of John Cena is his return from injury in the 2008 Royal Rumble. He was not expected. No one expected him to be there. He was out. He was supposed to be out with injury for like 6 or 8 months, and he appears at 3 months later at the Royal Rumble. He's the last entrant. He's number 30. So you don't even have to have the whole Rumble match in. You could just have some highlights of the early thing and maybe show the last 3 or 4 entrants before Cena arrives. But his appearance at Royal Rumble 2008 shocked everyone. But the reaction he got showed just how respected and loved he was by the crowd. Even though they've been going for years with the Cena sucks thing, he got one of the biggest ovations when he was the shock appearance, and he was cheered. Like, they loved him. He won the match, and he didn't get any, there was no backlash from the crowd that night. He really, it was a good thing. I think it reflects both his physical capabilities to recover from injury, but also the fact that he truly was loved by the fans, even though the smart fans wanted to boo him and say he sucked and all that sort of thing. When he was gone and came back, they loved it.
Yeah, I remember to give everyone a bit of a, in case you might have forgotten. So again, as I mentioned earlier, Cena had an epic title run after he beat Edge at Unforgiven 06, and it went on a run through 07. Was supposed to wrestle Randy Orton in a rematch, a match I was going to put on here, but I think I'm deciding whether I'm going to or not. Maybe I'll do it at the end because I think they need at least one match against each other, and one of their best between Cena and Orton was at SummerSlam 07. They were supposed to wrestle at No Mercy 07, but I think it was the Raw before Cena tore his pec muscle. So was it his pec or was it? Yeah, it was his pec, right?
Yeah, it was his pec.
It was his pec muscle. I forgot if it was his pec or his bicep. It was his pec muscle. So he was supposed to be out. Now, this was October. He was supposed to be out till like July.
After WrestleMania. Yeah, it was supposed to be like 8 months.
Yeah, it was supposed to not be back
WrestleMania.
At the earliest July. They probably would have debuted him brought him back maybe the night after SummerSlam. Instead, on that night at Madison Square Garden at the 2008 Royal Rumble, the first, incidentally, Dave, excuse me, the first WWE pay-per-view in HD, and Cena comes back. And I remember I was at my brother's house. We were watching the show, and him and I were both pumped. We're both Triple H guys, obviously. Well, everyone knows I am. My brother actually likes Triple H too. And we thought he was going to win the Rumble, and he was going to WrestleMania. And the minute I heard Cena's music, I went, shit. and of course, Cena won. But Cena then would cash in at No Way Out, not at the Rumble against Orton, who was champion. And then they would end up having a triple threat at WrestleMania 24. And then we'll go on from there. But that's a moment in time. So maybe not necessarily the whole match, although there was some cool returns, I remember, because obviously that was the first Rumble at MSG in 8 years. So that was pretty cool. I like that. That's a good pick. That's a good pick, Dave, in terms of a return. I think I'm going to pick. Let's see. What do I have here on my list? When we did that match, I'm going to pick this match. I was at this match live, and the only reason I want to put it on here is because I feel like it was an example of Cena in a triple threat against two guys who were very different workers and also wrestling in front of a hot crowd. It's probably one of my favorite triple threats of all time. From Philadelphia, from Wells, I don't know what it was called at that moment. I mean, it's Wells Fargo Arena now. I don't remember what it was called in 2015. But the 2015 Royal Rumble, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and Seth Rollins. Cena's in a weird point in his career here, Dave, as we talked about with other matches in 2015. He's become the elder statesman. And now when what he was in 2002 to the Kurts and the Rocks and the Steves and stuff, now he is the Rock to the guys like Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens and, eventually Roman Reigns and eventually Dean Ambrose and those guys that came up through the next 3 or 4 years heading into the next decade. I know I'm purposely holding a name back because there is a match that I'm going to put on here in a little bit unless Dave beats me to it. But this match I just love because the crowd's hot, because everybody's kind of thinking that Daniel Bryan was going to win the Rumble, which I'm glad he didn't because, there's only so much you can let the fans dictate to you. But thank God I didn't get hit by a battery when I was sitting in the crowd for that show. Came into that. I know you know the match, and I watched a great match that weekend. I mentioned it a lot. A great match that I remember the night before at a Ring of Honor taping. It was another 6-man tag. It was Seidel, ACH, and Cedric Alexander against a guy that I'm going to mention maybe later, AJ Styles and the Bucks. And that 6-man tag was off the freaking charts, and I'm not a Bucks fan. But that was off the charts. But the next night, this triple threat was just as amazing. And it was great. It was really great. And I think it's just a good match. Another match as to dictate Cena adapting to newer guys and adapting to the new wave of talent coming into the company.
Yeah, that three-way, that's an interesting one. I think how good it was surprised everyone. I would never have picked going into that show how good that match was going to be, and it's just I don't think you really pictured Brock as you don't picture Brock in three-way matches, especially in 2015, and yet this match worked. And it worked so well, and it was a great match, and it really just I think I like that. It was a mix of a guy he'd been around with, along with putting over one of the newer guys in the company, and it's a great pick to be in there, a really enjoyable match. So
Thank you.
I
I agree.
Pick.
Okay.
Look, I was weighing up. I've been weighing. It's interesting. I was weighing up between either continuing the Rumble run and perhaps showing another match from a Rumble, because I did the Rumble and you've done a Rumble match. But I want to hark in on one of the guys that you just had in that match, and I think there's a match that I think needs to be included because of again an example of Cena realizing, having actually a good business understanding. What is the term that WWE like to throw around so much for years? What is best for business?
Mm-hmm.
John Cena actually had a really good understanding of what was best for business, and when he chose to put it into action, it could make moments. And to me, I want to bring it back to Brock, and it's the SummerSlam 2014 match when Brock Lesnar just squashed him.
Yep.
Like Cena, I've heard and read, Cena actually requested for the match to be laid out that way. He wanted to make Brock look like an unstoppable monster. And he did. He allowed Brock to just destroy him in a match that surprised everyone. But it shows Cena's understanding of what needed to happen, because here you're bringing Brock back in, you're putting the title on Brock, you're wanting to make a run for Brock, and really, I mean, it really became Brock Cena's. He was the top guy right up until they elevated Roman Reigns. From that moment on, because Cena was moving, he was starting to step back, he was starting to dabble into Hollywood, he was starting to look at other ventures that were available to him, and it became the moment. Let's elevate Brock to be the top guy until the next top guy is ready. And he allowed himself to be squashed in one night, and it's just so memorable because it no one expected it, no one saw it coming, and yet it really it was a moment that no one will ever forget.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And because a match we could put it, it's funny you put this match, Dave, because there is a match that we could put on here that is against like an anti-Cena match, or another Cena match where he shouldn't have won, and that's the first time they faced each other, which was Brock's first month back in the company, which was back at Extreme Rules 2012. That match,
I nearly put that one on, but
that match was obviously Brock should have went over, because how do you bring Brock back? Epic return the night after WrestleMania 28, and then 1 month later you have him job to Cena. Like, that made no sense at all.
No.
And I feel like 2 years later, I feel like Cena, in a roundabout way, was like, you know what? 2 years ago, we kind of made a dumb mistake. Let's fix it now, and I think it'll work perfectly. And it did. I mean, Cena, an absolute, suplex buffet in that match. And obviously put Brock over. Brock won the Universal title, or the world title. And, of course, Brock would pretty much be glued to that belt for the next, 8 years or almost, or whatever. So that match, well, the other part was obviously Cena was definitely the prohibitive favorite there, because a lot of us purists, it was still stinging that Brock broke the streak 5 months earlier. Don't get me started on that. That still fucking rankles me. But it showed that Cena does know what's right for business, and it's very rare that when, except for maybe that SummerSlam 2010, obviously, and you made the point earlier, Dave, with some of the other decisions. It's not often that Cena is the one that decides whether he wants to win or lose, and it's a bad decision. Obviously, the SummerSlam 2010 is very well documented, but like the wins over Rusev and Bray, obviously were Vince decisions, not Cena decisions. Cena didn't have that much clout. He did, but he usually didn't do that. But here was a case where, knowing that Brock was going to be the guy at the top of the card, little do we realize, he'd never wrestle and made the time belt. Don't get me started on that. I had a lot of Brock rankling in this little 2-year stretch. It was just so aggravating. Yeah. So, no, I like that choice there because Cena did the right thing there, and he put over Brock in a big way. Because Brock was going to win the title and go on a big run. And it was Brock that was going to try to put over Roman Reigns, who was the next John Cena. And then Roman Reigns would end up having the same problem John Cena had 9 years earlier, where everybody got him shoved down his throat there. So, we knew how that felt.
It's interesting. It's interesting with Brock, because I think I agree that Extreme Rules match, it almost feels like I'm picturing in 2014, Cena's being told, you're losing the title to Brock. And he's like, yep, no worries, get it. I think it's the right, he's probably thinking, it's probably the right move. And then he probably thought to himself, let's do it this way. Let's have him squash me. Let's do it quick. But I wonder if there was a part of him thinking back to, we stuffed it 2 years ago. Because the match, that SummerSlam match should have been the Extreme Rules match. In a way, like really, can you imagine if that match had been Brock's return at Extreme Rules, that, how over he would have been, how, like, what you could have done with him straight off the bat, that then you had to rehab him because of that loss. And I think Cena just went, let's fix the mistake from 2 years ago. Let's do it this way. And look, you could put a bunch of Brock Lesnar, like Brock and Cena had several good matches, and another guy that you could put together. I mean, they, guy that they came up through OVW together, so they've got a long history. But I think, to me, this is just such a standout match that it's so different that it warrants the inclusion on this project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a smart move. It again paints a picture of Cena understanding the business and understanding where the company was going over the next couple of years. And I think he knew the smart thing to do was to make Brock look really strong. All right, I'm going to put this match on now because I might as well stop haranguing it. He had many matches with this guy at the time. He had a bunch in 2016. I saw one of them live. And that is what would end up being his, I guess, record tying title win. And we go to the Royal Rumble in 2017. And that is John Cena winning the WWE title from AJ Styles. Cena and AJ had a good feud in 2016. They had a couple of good matches. I went to the one in Brooklyn at SummerSlam 2016, which was fine. But this is probably their best match. Royal Rumble 2017, Cena wins the belt, ties his record, and then he ends up losing the belt, I think, the next month. Yeah, he loses it in the chamber because Bray wins it, and then him and Orton had the LED cockroaches match at WrestleMania 34, or 33. But I love this match, and I think it might have been Cena's last big 3 or 4 plus star match, maybe until Cody this past August at SummerSlam. This might have been Cena's last like legit great match for quite a few years, because obviously he wouldn't wrestle much through the end of the year. He didn't wrestle much during COVID. He would have the match. Him and Roman would have that match in Vegas at SummerSlam 2021, which I was at, and that match is fine. I think after this match, he doesn't really have a match at that level until maybe the match at SummerSlam this past year at MetLife against Cody. So this is probably his last like legit great match. And AJ can make is another guy that can make anybody look like $1 million. And he did a lot of times for Cena. Not that he didn't make Cena look like $1 million, but AJ could amp it up to that next level, So that I had to put this match on here because it was probably Cena's last legit great match for probably 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. Look, that was one of the last matches sitting on my short list here that hadn't been included yet. It was the moment Cena showed he could still go. You're at the point of the career. 2017, Cena was starting to. You were getting the feeling he's going to be winding down soon. He's going to, the outside ventures are starting to open up. And then these two they just have this absolute barnstormer of a match. And AJ had come into the company and almost everything he did had been gold since he arrived. And it only made sense that these two would make pure magic when they met in the ring. And this match just they were allowed to showcase and they just took it to another level and it was a fantastic match. And I actually think it's up there I think it's one of Cena's best ever. I mean, we've talked about a lot of good matches. I think it's one of those better matches. So a great match to like you said, it's sort of the last great one before the retirement year. It really is sort of the cap to the full-time element of his career. So yeah, good choice. All right. Well, look, I look at our list of matches here, and we got to really realistically, we probably got to be bringing this to a close pretty shortly. I look at a match, and we've pretty well covered all of Cena's top opponents, except for one. And I think there's one guy that there's got to be at least one match on here. I'm going to pick something that is very out there because I suspect you may probably be able to nail in better what might be their best ever match for the WWE. So the person who's missing from this list is Randy Orton. We've talked about him a couple of times on this episode, but we haven't actually got a Randy Orton match. Mm-hmm. Now, in my prep work, we'll go right back to the beginning. John Cena, we talked about John Cena was in UPW. He that's where he trained. He was then signed to a developmental contract by WWE. That was when they all went to OVW. They started training in OVW. And Cena, I've seen an interview with Cena where he talks about, his first day in there, Batista, Brock, Randy Orton, Shelton Benjamin, Rico Constantine, like all these guys that just great in-ring guys that were that class that he was developing with. But he talked about how Randy Orton, it was sort of only just started training. He'd only just sort of been training and starting his career, and he looked like he'd been doing it for 20 years. That's what Cena said. John Cena's first taped match under WWE contract occurred in OVW against Randy Orton on OVW TV. And I thought, again, you're talking about basically the first time they encountered each other was on TV. So I thought another good match to have on this project would be that match, his first appearance on OVW TV. So it's an important moment in his career, but also just happens to be against a guy that basically they've just shared, like they've side by side, they've faced each other, they've been teammates, they've their careers have just been a journey alongside each other, and that's with Randy Orton. So the match I'm going to put on this project is John Cena's OVW TV debut, which I believe was I looked it up before. I think it's in June of 2001. I'm just going to go back to have a double check of that. Where are we? This is great listening for everyone's benefit. Me looking at a list. It's August 2001. Sorry, against Randy Orton. So that's his debut on TV. And I suspect we probably would need another match of John Cena and Randy Orton. I would suspect that you may have something up your sleeve.
Well, no, you're not wrong.
They did have so many crap matches. Hopefully, it's not one of those.
No. I wasn't gonna. The only John Cena matches that quote stink. I was not gonna put ones that just sucked because they sucked, because we could do that for anybody. I just wanted the Cena matches that were going to be kind of adverse were going to be ones that involved something adversely affecting a person or a creative wave, like a SummerSlam 2010. I'm not going to put, let's just put every single Cena Orton match from 2009 because they just were all terrible. No, we're not going to do that. Again, I would have put Cena Orton from SummerSlam 2007. I'm not putting Cena Orton from this past year's Backlash because my personal opinion, I didn't like wasting Cena's last match with Orton on some throwaway WWE title match show somewhere else. That was a guy that I would have put in the last slot on Saturday Night's Main Event over Rusev. The ultimate guy that I would have put last, and we'll get to that in a minute when we do a quick kind of go through of the last year. But if I was going to put an Orton match, and you know what, I'll put it on here because I agree with you, but we should have an Orton match where they're both kind of in their prime. And I mentioned it earlier, so I'll put it on here anyway. And that is their WWE Championship match. It's probably the best match between the two of them. And that's from SummerSlam 2007. It's probably their best match because they wrestled 3 times in a row in 2009. They wrestled at SummerSlam, then they wrestled at, Breaking Point or whatever the hell it was called. And then they wrestled again at Hell in a Cell. And it was just big. None of those matches were that great. They wrestled at, they wrestled at TLC 2013. And then they wrestled in a rematch at Royal Rumble 2014. And those matches were just so droll. But I'm not going to put a bad Cena Orton match just because the match itself wasn't good. So if I'm going to put an Orton match, I'll put maybe their best match, in my opinion. That's when they wrestled at SummerSlam in 2007. It's probably their best match together. Yeah. So there you go. So there's my one Orton match.
Yeah. And I think, and I agree with you. I think it comes to, you want their best match because, like I said, these guys have been tied together since they both signed with the company. They like I just said, they did TV debut for Cena is against Orton in 2001 in OVW. They both come to the main roster within a month of each other. They're both rising up the ranks at a similar time. They have a lot on-off feud for years. Some of the matches are great. Some of the matches are terrible. Some of the matches should never have been put on.
Right.
But their careers have been this parallel journey, and I think you couldn't have a Cena career DVD without at least a match with Randy Orton on it from the main roster, and I think that's the way to go. So, so I mean, look, that's pretty well exhausted the things that I thought would go on. Is there anything that you, apart not counting the last year, because I'm sure we'll probably want to throw one match in from the last year, which you might have already mentioned it, but before not counting 2025, is there anything else you think we've missed for this project?
Well, I feel like we should put this match only because it's his first championship win. The match itself is actually not the worst. I actually watched it very recently, and it was a good little sprint. And it's his first championship win. So I would put on there Cena winning the United States Championship from the Big Show at WrestleMania 20. Just because it's his first title win. I feel like you should put it on there.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the best match, but it's not crap. It's a decent. I just watched it literally 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's a good little sprint. It's 8.5 minutes or something. It's not offensive. It's a decent opener. The Garden crowd's hot. Cena comes out wearing Patrick Ewing. He cuts a good promo. It's a good first title win for him. So we put it on there.
I think one of the things that really stands out about that match, though, I think that really sort of highlighted something to everyone that people weren't expecting. It was how strong Cena was, because that's when he hoiked Big Show up for the FU, and I think that really surprised everyone.
Right.
Just how he was that he did that in that match, like showing his strength, because he's a strong guy, but until that Big Show match at WrestleMania, I don't think he'd ever really had a chance to show how strong he actually was on the main roster. And he did in that match, hoisted Big Show up and dropped him with the FU in a moment that I think really, it got a big pop with the crowd.
Yep, I agree. I did type 2 matches down here from this year, and then we'll talk about rebooking. Obviously, the 2 matches I put was Cena and Cody Rhodes from SummerSlam back in August at MetLife. And then, of course, the last match, Cena and Gunther from Science Main Event. I think because the Cena-Cody match was the best match of the year, and Cena-Gunther was the last match. So
and I think you've got to, look, you said it before, the Rhodes match at SummerSlam was his best match on the return of that year. I think you've got to have it on there. It was sort of recapturing glory moment. It was like Cena reminding everyone just what he could actually do.
Right.
Like, I'm on a retirement tour, but look, I can still do this. And he showed everyone. And then you can't have a career retrospective match without that last, especially when we've got his first ever match. We've got his first OVW, his first main roster. You've got to have his last match. It's without a doubt a compulsory match to have on there. Whether you like it or not, it needs to be on there to bring about finality to the career.
Yep. No, absolutely. I agree. All right. So before we do our kind of discussion of this past year, let's run down the matches. So this is Dave's and my Through the Looking Glass alternate DVD collection for John Cena. That includes matches for good and matches for not so good. So 25 total. The Prototype versus Funky Billy Kim and Troubled Youth from November 5th, 1999, UVW. Right? Is that what it was? UVW?
UPW.
UVW. John Cena versus Randy Orton from OVW in August of 2001. UPW. Thank you. John Cena versus Kurt Angle, his big debut on June 25th, 2002. The SmackDown segment from Halloween 2002 when Cena raps his Vanilla Ice. And that's, of course, when Stephanie's got that slinky witch's outfit on with her boobs hanging out and she's making out with Big Show John Cena for the U.S. title from WrestleMania 20, Cena's first ever singles title win. John Cena versus JBL for the WWE title from Judgment Day 2005. John Cena versus Rob Van Dam for the WWE title from One Night Stand 2006. Edge versus John Cena, TLC for the WWE title from Unforgiven 2006. John Cena versus Umaga, Last Man Standing from Royal Rumble 2007. John Cena versus Shawn Michaels from Monday Night Raw from London, April 23rd, 2007. John Cena versus Randy Orton for the WWE title from SummerSlam 2007. John Cena makes his big return at number 30 at the Royal Rumble in 2008 at Madison Square Garden when he was not expected to come back. Team WWE versus Team Nexus from SummerSlam 2010, which is a rare creative blunder on John's part. John Cena versus CM Punk from Money in the Bank 2011, arguably one of the greatest matches ever. The Once in a Lifetime, Part 1, John Cena versus The Rock from WrestleMania 28. John Cena versus CM Punk for a number 1 contender slot at WrestleMania from the February 25th, 2013 episode of Raw. John Cena versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE title from SummerSlam 2013. John Cena versus Bray Wyatt from WrestleMania 30. John Cena versus Brock Lesnar for the WWE title, or Undisputed title, I guess at that point, from SummerSlam 2014, the Suplex Squash Fest. Actually, the birth of Suplex City, actually.
Yep.
Brock Lesnar versus John Cena versus Seth Rollins for the WWE title from Royal Rumble 2015. John Cena versus Rusev for the U.S. title, from SummerSlam, from WrestleMania 31. John Cena versus Kevin Owens from the 2015 Elimination Chamber. John Cena wins his his record-tying WWE title from AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble in 2017. John Cena versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE title this past August at WrestleMania at MetLife. And finally, John Cena versus Gunther from Saturday night's main event, the last match from December 13th, 2025. So 25 matches, one match more than we had for Hogan. All right, so let's take a few moments and look at John Cena's 2025 year, and take a look at what happened and who he wrestled and how it could have been a little different. So his last year, I'm going to a cage match here so I don't miss anything. So here were his matches in 2025. So the first match in 2025 was the Royal Rumble, which he lost. He did not win the Royal Rumble. He defeated Jey Uso. Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble, but Cena was in it, and he was one of the last two. He was in the number one contendership Elimination Chamber, which he won. Then at WrestleMania 41 on Sunday in Vegas, he beat Cody Rhodes to win the title back, to win his title. At Backlash, he defeated Randy Orton in St. Louis. He defeated R-Truth on Saturday night's main event in Tampa on May 24th. Cody and Jey Uso beat John Cena and Logan Paul at Money in the Bank in Inglewood on June 7th. R-Truth beat Cena by DQ on Friday Night SmackDown from the Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, Michigan on June 20th. Cena defeated Punk at Night of Champions 2025 in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on June 28th. In a street fight, and we put this match on our list, he defeated Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes defeated Cena to win back the WWE title at SummerSlam Sunday. You know how long that match was, Dave?
Well, I've got it open in front of me, so I know that it was nearly 40 minutes.
For those that don't know, it was 37:42. Wow. I don't remember the match being that long. Didn't feel that long. Maybe that's why it was so good. Didn't feel 37 minutes. Incidentally, to compare it, the match at WrestleMania where Cena won was 25:03. So the match at SummerSlam was longer. Cody Rhodes and John Cena beat Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul by DQ on Friday Night SmackDown at the Bell Center in Montreal on August 8th. Cena beat Logan Paul at Clash in Paris on August 31st. For the U.S. title, Sami Zayn and John Cena wrestled to a no contest on SmackDown at the the Allstate Arena in Rosemont on September 5th. Brock Lesnar defeated John Cena at WrestlePalooza in Indianapolis on September 20th. Cena beat AJ Styles at Crown Jewel in Australia. They wrestled in Dave's living room. Dave refereed that match, by the way, on October 11th. John Cena beat Dominic Mysterio to win the Intercontinental title on Monday Night Raw on November 10th. Cena, Rey Mysterio, and Sheamus beat the Judgment Day on Monday Night Raw from Madison Square Garden on November 17th. Then Dominic Mysterio beats Cena back for the Intercontinental title at Survivor Series at Petco Park in San Diego on November 29th. And then, as we mentioned, the final match, Gunther beat John Cena on December 13th at at Saturday Main Event at the Capital One Arena in Washington. Some of these matches I'm okay with. The 2 matches with Cena are fine. Wrestling R-Truth, because that was kind of the cute little thing.
So do you mean the 2 matches with Cody? You said the 2 matches with Cena. Cena can't wrestle.
I'm sorry. Cena can't wrestle. If Cena had a way to wrestle himself, Dave, he would have. I'm sorry. The 2 matches with Cody were fine.
Just before we go any further there, let's just touch on those Cody matches.
Sure.
Because one of the things I struck. Look, I don't know that I have an answer to this, but it's very clear that the heel turn was the wrong thing to do.
Correct.
More tied in with the fact that Rock was unable to be at WrestleMania. If Rock was able to be at WrestleMania, the heel turn might have worked a bit more. But because Cena was at Mania on his own, without The Rock, without this catalyst of why he turned, it just seemed to be a waste. With the direction, when you look back in the year and you see the direction they took, that he beats Cody, but then he drops the belt back to Cody at SummerSlam, and essentially in a match where he's become a babyface, so it's babyface match. You look at that WrestleMania match, you go, did he really need to be a heel there? They could have just done Cena wins, and then Cody gets it back at SummerSlam. They could have just done that without the heel turn. I think so. That's one thing I reflect on with that. If you wanted to make the heel turn work, because it just didn't work, I think the you would have needed to find a way to do it without The Rock. And I'm just going to throw on I'm going to put on my hat for a minute. This may not work, but I was just thinking to myself, could it have worked? Could you have turned him heel in a way that doesn't involve The Rock? And I think if you were going to do it using still the timeline you wanted to work through with, I think when he loses the Royal Rumble, he really came across as like, well, I've just got another chance at Elimination Chamber. Perhaps if he'd been a little bit more bitter with the loss to Jey Uso, and maybe in a couple of promos, sort of like, you could get the sense, like in the first couple of promos between Rumble and Elimination Chamber, you do something where Cena is clearly annoyed, bitter, angry that he lost. Maybe he takes a couple of shots at Jey Uso as a character, like, Jey Uso's not in my class. Jey Uso's not good enough, and I'm going to win Elimination Chamber, and I'm going to go and I'm going to face Cody. Like, he calls the shot, but he's doing it in a way that he's uber over Jey Uso being chopped at by Cena. That might have got the fans a little bit annoyed. And then at Elimination Chamber, if you want to turn him heel, I don't know how you would have done it realistically, but the one man he could turn heel against, which they didn't do, is against Punk, because everyone wanted Punk to win Elimination Chamber.
Right, yeah.
And if Cena had done something like, yes, he stole it away from Punk, but they did the Seth Rollins moment. If you did something different where Cena gets grabs a metal pole, or gets brass knucks, or does something that he cheats Punk out of the title shot, I think you could have done a bit more of a natural heel turn that way. And then again, in the in follow-up interviews, it's Cena could just double down. I don't care about Punk. I don't care. You could lay it on. You guys have been booing me for years. I came back to win the title. I'm going to do whatever it takes. He's almost in the heel role, but we saw it happen. The fans were still going to cheer him, and I think if he'd done something like that, it would have at least worked a little bit more at WrestleMania, where you've got the John Cena's going to do whatever it takes at Mania to win, because that's been the goal since he came back. Whereas by allying with The Rock, the moment The Rock didn't show at WrestleMania, it just made Cena feel like, well, why have you turned heel at all? You didn't need to. So that would be how I might have rebooked. If you wanted to have him heel against Cody at Mania, I probably would have done something like that. Just tried to flip the story just a little bit to have him angry at not winning Rumble, and then I'm going to do whatever it takes, and that means taking out the one guy that he could probably turn heel on, which would be CM Punk. And then that plays into the Punk match later on. You know, Punk like, you cost me my shot. Now I'm coming back for you. And then they can do what they did. They go back to 2011 and replay out the pipe bomb and that whole thing, that was the one thing I really liked about the heel run, was the Cena flip on the pipe bomb.
Yeah.
Which essentially solidified him back turning into a babyface, and then they did that over the next couple of episodes, and by the time we get to SummerSlam, he's a babyface. So that's the one thing that I didn't like, is the heel turn, because they never capitalized on why he turned heel, and they had to ad-lib it. And I think if they'd had a bit more of a plan for it, it could have worked. That's how I might have tried to do it with where they're going and the number of dates you had. I don't know if it works. I don't think he needed it, but that's how you could have done it to try and make it work.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think, I feel like the fans wanted, they probably like, hey, see, they always wanted Cena to turn heel. Well, it's a little late for that now. And now it made no sense. And it made and I think the way he wrestled heel is what made the WrestleMania match kind of crap. Yeah. And then when he went back to be wrestling as Cena later in the year at SummerSlam, we ended up getting the old Cena, which was adapting. And Cena and Cody's also an adapter. He's another adapter. And so they kind of like wrestle their own little dance. And I liked it. I liked how it was better off for him just to wrestle the way he wrestles. At that point in Cena's career, trying to change the way he wrestles, probably really didn't work. So I agree with you with that. For me, the change I would have made is I would have not had him wrestle Orton at Backlash. I would have had him wrestle some other schlub. Because I'm going to flip the script here. I understand storyline wise, the match with Gunther made sense because you're putting Gunther over, and Gunther's with the future of the company, and you can do the storyline where he retires people. That's fine. But if you wanted to have Cena face somebody with some chops that had a history to it, that's where I would have put Orton. It's amazing all the matches that Orton and Cena ever wrestled, and they never wrestled alone at WrestleMania. They were together in a match. It was the triple threat from it was a triple threat at WrestleMania. I mentioned it a little while ago. From WrestleMania 24 down in Orlando, Triple H, Orton, and Cena. But Cena and Orton never wrestled alone at WrestleMania. So the fact that never happened, I always find kind of funny. But I would have maybe put Orton last, that match, and Sunday's main event. And apparently this could have happened. Tony Khan did talk to somebody. I don't know who, but I don't know what he wanted in return. But he did offer to allow Edge to come back and wrestle Cena on the last match on Sunday's main event. Now, if that was the case, I would have totally done it. But that didn't happen. I guess WWE said no because they wanted to do the Gunther thing, and that's fine. But I would have loved to have seen Cena and Edge gone one more time.
Yeah. I think that would have been one that I think everyone would have liked to have seen.
Yeah.
Whether it was his last match or just earlier in the year, I think the issue you've got with that, I guess, from a WWE perspective is the limelight it would be shining on AEW, and
True.
that's probably the one drawback for them. But I agree, it would have been great for Edge to have been given an opportunity to be a part of the retirement tour. So,
plus the other thing is, I don't think WWE was going to want Edge to just show up one night and leave. I mean, they would have wanted to build something, which means he would have had to be on WWE TV for a few weeks, and I'm sure that would have gotten creatively that would have gotten a little messy.
So yeah, well, let me throw. There's a couple of matches. I want to throw out a couple of things. Like, look, this is our world. This is our podcast. We're going to throw. I'm going to throw out two matches that I would have loved to have seen this year. I get why we didn't see them. I understand it probably wouldn't have worked for what they wanted to do with the retirement tour. But I think there's two matches I would have loved to have seen. I'm going to precursor it by saying I love the fact that later in the year, Cena put over Dom. The three-match, it's essentially the three-match series with Dom. He beat Dom. Then they had the Judgment Day six-man match, and then he lost the title back to Dom. I loved that he did that. I loved that he recognized that Dom is a rising star. He is a sports entertainment star, and I think it ties into, we know that Cena has a good relationship with Ray. They've been around for a long time as friends, so I think there's an element where there's probably he sort of watched Dom grow up, and I think there's probably a relationship there with Dom that pre-existed Dom entering the business. So I love that they did that. But outside of that, a lot of it was, we did the Logan Paul match. I think that I have no issue with that, although I think some of the tag matches didn't necessarily need to happen. I would have loved to have seen these two matches just as something different, because at the beginning of the year, when he started the run, when he was being one of the earliest interviews, he said, you don't know who they're going to be against. They could be against people you don't ever expect. That was something that he said. It was something along those lines. And I think it was his first promo of the year before Royal Rumble. I think it was something like that. After the pipe bomb match with CM Punk, where he does the reverse pipe bomb and he dropped Matt Cardona's name, once they made the decision to re-sign Matt Cardona to the company, I would have loved to have seen Cena and Matt Cardona have a match. Yeah, I think it would have been a great circle to come to for knowing that they have that friendship. The dropping his name in the pipe bomb, I think it would have been a great thing to do, to just sort of do it on Raw, do it on SmackDown, whatever. That could have been one of those last matches. Maybe, I know he didn't really appear, but if they were going to sign Matt Cardona, they could have signed him a month earlier or 2 months earlier and done it anyway. So that's one match I would have liked to have seen. The other match I would have loved to have seen this year, look, I don't know what other people think, and maybe it's a bit of the fanboy in me. I would have loved to have seen him. I can't believe I'm having a mental blank right now. Joe Hendry. I would have loved to have seen him face Joe Hendry. If you look at if you've watched interviews of Hendry after the match against Orton, he actually talks about how Cena came up and talked to him and gave him some words of encouragement, and actually apparently gave him words at Royal Rumble as well. And Cena was investing into Joe Hendry when he didn't have to. And Joe Hendry has talked about how much of an impact that's had on him. You've got this relationship developed with TNA over the year. How fun would it have been if it got announced that one of those TNA pay-per-views before Hendry dropped the title was Cena going in and wrestling Joe Hendry in TNA.
That would have been crazy. That would have been crazy.
It would have been so much fun because the relationship's there. You can get away with it. They're not killing anything. Or even, and I don't know that it necessarily would, but even Joe Hendry being the last opponent or one of those last opponents for Cena, I don't know that it would have worked as the last opponent, but can you imagine if it was that here's Cena like Cena did that interview just before, like, announcing that Saturday night's main event was going to be, we're going to highlight these NXT guys.
Right.
Well, the moment he did that, why didn't he jump on board and be one of the ones to highlight an NXT guy? He could have faced Joe Hendry and as that last match when they made that announcement. And you could have had Joe Hendry do some of his songs and some of his stuff on. You could have even had it happen like accidentally. Like you could have done a shock appearance. Like, you don't advertise it, but Cena's in the ring and he says, maybe he wrestles Gunther earlier in the night and he loses to Gunther. And he comes back out at the end of the night and he talks about, he just starts he does a speech. He's putting everyone over. Thank you, everyone. Thank the fans and all that. And I know there were so many people that would have liked to have seen me wrestle. And he could have dropped Edge's name, wrestle a Matt Cardona, wrestle an Edge and all that. And and there was a lot of guys that are coming up through NXT, and he could have just said Joe Hendry's name in passing. And because you've said the name, bang, the music hits, Hendry comes out and basically challenges John Cena one-on-one right there. And they do a one-on-one match to finish it off as like a shock thing. It would have been fun. I would have liked to have seen it because I would have liked to have seen him elevate someone who maybe wasn't in the company at the time. Like, he elevated Dom, that's great, but he matched up. He elevated Logan Paul. Logan Paul's still coming along, but he's been around for a few years now. Everyone else is basically already a made person in the company that he faced. Right. Everyone else, AJ, Brock, Sami Zayn's been around for years. I'm sure he would have loved to wrestle Kevin Owens if Owens wasn't hurt. Everyone else has been around the company for years. To elevate someone who was an NXT guy or someone who was still not quite on the main roster, I think would have been a real. To me, that becomes what Kurt Angle did for him. That becomes I'm going to give a guy his first match on the main roster, bring it on, let's go. And I think it really would have made the year just memorable. It was already memorable, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course. Yep. Yeah, I love the Joe Hendry idea. That would have been great. Could you imagine? And TNA would have had to have promoted it. You don't just have Cena show up, because that would have sucked for TNA to not get because I've always been a fan of surprises, but if you were able to promote that Cena was going to be on, Bound for Glory or something, which is what I would have done. If Santana was
cross promotion, do it on. He actually announces it on Raw. I'm going to appear at a TNA pay-per-view.
Yeah, and he shows up I would have had him do it at Bound for Glory, because that's like TNA's version of WrestleMania. Yeah, that would have been great. I love that idea. Because now Hendry's with the company. You could have done it. You could,
yeah. But I mean, look, play it in. If we go back to that time period, Hendry, you keep the belt on Hendry. He hasn't dropped it yet. You announce Cena comes out for a promo, and he announces that maybe AJ comes out. Like, Cena's doing a promo, and AJ Styles comes out during the promo, and AJ talks about how he was around for years and how he was in TNA, and Cena goes, "I can go to TNA. I would go to TNA. I'd wrestle anyone. I would wrestle their champion. And what's his name? Joe Hendry." And bang, the music hits. Joe Hendry comes out, challenges him to a match, and then you have the match at Bound for Glory. It would have been great TV.
Yeah, I agree. I don't remember what arena that venue, that pay-per-view was, but boy, they'd have probably wanted to put it at a 20,000 seat arena instead of their usual 6,000 seat arenas. That'd have been crazy. But for the most part, I can say that other than the kind of wonky heel turn and the fact that as much as I liked watching the match with Gunther, I would rather have been a little more nostalgic for that last match. I didn't have a problem with the way that this year for Cena went. It was fine. Well, there you go, folks. There is our Through the Looking Glass alternate John Cena DVD. You heard the matches earlier and how we would maybe have tweaked a little bit this last year in 2025. Dave, always a pleasure. Our first new show of the new year. Where are you up to on? You mentioned Chronoso earlier. Where are you at the moment, timeline wise?
We're just about to hit WrestleMania 7. We've
Gotcha.
we've got one more. The next episode of Chronoso will be the Superstars and Stripes primetime
Oh,
show
the build.
that occurred.
Yep.
Yeah, the build to WrestleMania, and then the show after that will be WrestleMania. So that's where. So by the time this one drops, like we will have the last show for the build to WrestleMania drops probably in the next few days after this episode drops of Through the Looking Glass, and then the one after that will be WrestleMania 7. So yeah, it's we're in a good build, and then we'll see where things go after that. What the journey hits after that.
Gotcha. Well, we got great stuff here on the PTB Wrestling Network. Of course, the great weekend shows with our man Luke Jennings. Last week we had a special Monday episode of the main event. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll have our next regular episode coming up at the end of the week here. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, it'll be 2 days from now on Friday. If you're listening after it, it might already be dropped. We will have, and as a matter of fact, I don't think I've put I don't think I've put the ballot down yet. I probably should do that. I have to put the ballot down for I don't think I put it yet. The ballot down for the next episode of Wrestle Tracks, the first one of 2026. We found a way to figure out how to watch stuff, even with this transition of content. And again, I was on the No-So, speaking of, for the most recent episode of the Sono Draft Show. Myself, Ryan Gray, my PIC, Mr. Azzaro, as well as Steve Bennett. We drafted, in our opinion, our favorite and best matches from the classic era of Saturday night's main event. So check that out. Join Dave and I next month for our February episode of Through the Looking Glass. We're not sure what we'll do yet, but we always find something cool. Until then, enjoy the Royal Rumble, because we'll be watching it at 2:00 in the afternoon. It'd be kicking it old school. It's like watching it, in 1990. Anyway, and Dave and I will come up with a fantastic topic for February. So enjoy the rest of January. Enjoy the Royal Rumble. Enjoy the Super Bowl if your team is still in it. There's 4 left. I'm not telling Dave who they are. And we will see you in February through the Looking Glass.